I was in a great battle with a couple of buddies of mine. The irony was I actually coach a couple of them, so so they probably used a few of my own tricks against me. And I was just trying, they had 2 litres and we got 1.5 litres with this. So I've got speed through the corners, but then I have to try and do everything I can on the straights.
Welcome back to On Track GP. I'm with, of course, my favourite driver, Richard Bradley. Richard, what are we doing here today? We're back at Silverstone. It feels like my second home. What are we doing here?
We're here for a really fun day out. One of my hobby jobs, I would call it. I basically do a lot of stuff in historic racing. So a good friend of mine, Tudor Roberts, owns a very, very famous Aston Martin. It was one of the first Aston Martins to race at Le Mans in 1928. It's codenamed LM2 because LM1 and LM2 were the first 2 Aston Martin Le Mans cars. And Tudor lets me race it once a year, and this is the weekend. So yeah, we're going to have a great day out. We're going to see some really, really rare cars, which, to be honest, most people would say belong in a museum, but I think that should be against the law in my eyes. Yeah. Cars are built for racing, so yeah, looking forward to it.
So in terms of like driving these old cars, how much harder is it than driving something modern?
Well, this is the thing. I actually use this as a very, very good form of training because you have no electronic aids in these cars. So we've got no power steering. We've got no servo assist on the brake, which you don't have in most modern racing cars. The gearbox is a H-pattern stick shift, but you have no synchromesh, so you have to double the clutch on the upshift and the downshift, which is a very complicated procedure. I mean, just as on the gearbox example, which is the biggest thing, in my modern car, I hear a beep and I press a button, and then the computer does everything for me, changes gear for me. And if I want more blip on my downshift, I don't have to use the clutch at all. I just press a button. If I want more blip, I just change the switch. If I want less, I change the switch. I can change my throttle map through the steering wheel. Whereas with these, you are effectively the car's computer. And you're doing all of this whilst not wearing any seatbelts. So you're holding onto the wheel for dear life to keep yourself in the car. And then also you have leaf spring suspension, so it almost works a bit like a motorbike. So the more you actually lean, the more grip you get. So they're incredibly physical, but
it's like weight driven by you as well.
Exactly. And obviously they have the aerodynamic efficiency of a brick, so I try and get my head down. I mean, aero wasn't a big thing in the 1920s, right? But this is, for me, it reignites my fun. It gets rid of, we all follow Formula One and other forms of motorsport. We all see the politics and the BS that goes on, and that's the same in any profession, and motorsport as a whole has a lot of it. This is just me having a great time, and apart from that, I get to race against my dad, which is quite fun.
Oh, do you think you're going to beat him?
I hope so.
I think I believe in you. I was looking as well, and we were talking just before we started. Tell me about the pedals in the car that you're driving today.
Yeah, so the pedals, it's a very, very narrow pedal box, but the throttle pedal's actually in the middle. Yeah. So honestly, to be honest, if you've done a long enough race in one of these cars, you could probably take up Irish dancing because your feet are just moving all over the place. Obviously, throttle in the middle, brake on the right, then you've got the clutch. So when you're upshifting, you're going on the clutch, have to put it in neutral, then come off the clutch, then go back on the clutch before you put it in gear, then come off. And obviously on the downshift, you're having to do the double declutching, which is the procedure I just explained, whilst you've got your foot on the brake and you're using your heel to accelerate to balance the engine RPM. It's very, very, but as I said, it's very good training for me with the modern cars because cars today work in exactly the same way, just we have technology which allows us to make it easier. So this helps me to understand how the technology works, which I can then take when I have to develop systems for modern cars.
Yeah, I love that. Well, look, we've got some beautiful cars here. We're going to see some racing. I know we've got all different sort of categories of cars racing against each other as well, right? So we're expecting to see some mixed up grids.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is it's a bit of I wouldn't say a free for all because but it kind of was in the terms of the regs back then. We've got cars. I'm doing 2 races today. One of them is an Aston only race, and so in that race I've got cars which are 1.5 litres, 2 litres, and then in the other races you've got some cars have 7 litres, some cars have 3 wheels. There's a mixture of everything here, and
Brilliant.
And what but it's really, really cool because you get a mixture of pros like myself who the owners are having driver cars for them. Some of the owners are enjoying it, and we're all just going to have a really fun day out.
Nice, mate. Let's get into it. Best of luck.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you.
Here we go. Rich, mate, you're a sweaty guy right now. You've been working hard.
I tell you, these cars, I mean, you've got no assistance at all. So you've got no suspension, you've got no seatbelt, so you're literally having to hold yourself into the car. You've got no synchromesh on the gearbox, you've got no servo on the brake, so everything is just purely mechanical. And so it's, honestly, this is as hard as, if not harder than any modern car.
It's interesting as well. I could see when you were coming around that corner, you were like ducking down like a bobsled. What's that about?
Well, aerodynamics in 1928 weren't really a thing, you know. So believe it or not, when you have a car like this, and when you have such little power, it actually makes quite a big difference when you put your head down. And I was in a great battle with a couple of buddies of mine. The irony was I actually coach a couple of them, so so they probably used a few of my own tricks against me. And I was just trying, you know, they had 2 litres and we got 1.5 litres with this. So I've got speed through the corners, but then I have to try and do everything I can on the straights. But it's awesome, and you know, we were talking about it earlier. When you have these cars here, you know, it's a fun race, but as you can see, we're racing hard, and it's like a museum coming to life. You know, you know, before you got involved with this, you probably only see these cars statically, and this is literally what it was like when they were racing back in period. You know, this exact car did Le Mans 24 hours twice. You know, and it's completely original. We haven't, you know, obviously tires and stuff evolved with technology, but we haven't done anything to it. So no, it was great fun, and I think we put on a show, and yeah, we loved it. You know,
one race down, one more to go. Right? How you feeling about race number 2?
Race number 2 is going to be more annoying because that was an Aston only race, and all the Astons are a bit different, similar size and everything. What you'll see now is you'll see an evolution through the manufacturers and how different cars used to look. Now we look at Formula 1 cars, and to the naked eye, if you paint them all black, it's hard to tell which car's which. Whereas all these cars are different shapes and sizes. So you've got a tiny little Aston with 1.5 litres, and there's a 7-litre Bentley out in my next race. So, you know, it's going to be something different. But look, it's really cool because these cars don't belong in museums. And as I said, this is you know, this is more of a hobby weekend for me than, you know, and I just love it. It really rekindles my passion for motorsport. Just to have this much fun.
I'm looking forward to race number 2.
And I beat my dad.
Yes, that's the main thing. Well done, mate. Let's go for race 2.
We're taking the seat out for weight saving because we're in competition mode now.
I'm not that sure. Not in real life.
Right, we've got our foot start down here, as you can see.
Here we go. It's actually quite comfortable on the floor, to be fair. Yeah, nice. You've already beaten your dad today, right?
Already beating my dad today, which is good. So he'll be buying me a pint or dinner next.
Yeah, nice. Here we go. We're gearing up now for Rich's second race. This is a pre-war race, so we've got cars. You know, Rich is driving a 1928 car. He could be competing against cars that are 10 years newer, and the development of these cars over that time was astronomical. So. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he can do. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's also just so nice to be back at Silverstone, sitting in a grandstand. It gets me excited again for Silverstone next year. All right, good luck, Rich. Let's go. His way through the pack. He's absolutely flying. Number 28. Oh, look at him drifting round that. That is beautiful driving. There's Richard again. Oh, yeah. Back end drifting out there. So he's definitely already made up a few places. Oh, Richard with the overtake. Great move, great move. Love to see it. Great driving, man. I love seeing the back end of a 1928 Aston Martin go round. I mean, it's insane, man. Do you enjoy it?
Ah, mate, how can you not? It's awesome, you know, in a car with such history. As I said, this car actually raced at Le Mans in 1928. This, you know, and it's completely original. The only modern developments we've got on it are obviously modern tyre materials, because you can't use 95-year-old tyres, and obviously modern oils. Apart from that, it's exactly how it was back in period. And I had a great time. And the interesting thing is with these cars, is you say the back end was drifting, you saw it, that because it's the cars then, they didn't have the mechanical grip. So all the cars would drift. So they were actually designed to drift in a certain way. So quite a lot of the time when the car's sliding, I've seen videos, you don't actually feel it slide because it's being developed to optimize it. I mean, these cars were prototypes of their time.
Yeah.
It just shows you how far technology's moved in 95 years.
Yeah, completely. You managed to, it looked for a second on like lap 1 or 2, it was about to chuck it down, but you managed to just about stay away from the rain. Would you have actually liked a bit of rain maybe?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, these cars are, you know, the Aston Martins, they were built purely for Le Mans, and Le Mans back then was a true endurance race, so it wasn't all about having the fastest car. So they have smaller engines to put less stress on the equipment and to last longer, and they were famous for how well they handled to make it easier for the driver, because back then some teams only used one driver, which is over 24 hours, which is bonkers.
That's
right?
madness.
It's complete madness. And so then we were racing against cars which are newer, and then some of them have got, you know, built for sprints, so have 7-litre engines. So of course when you have the rain, it gets rid of the power advantage, and you know the Astons excel in the rain. But you know, as I said, this is it's a form of work for me, but it's very much a hobby for me, and I've just had such a fun day out. And you know, especially for you guys as well, you've literally seen, you know, a museum come to life. All these pretty priceless and rare cars being used how they were designed to be used, being raced hard by some pros and semi-pros, the owners, and everyone having a bloody good time doing it.
It's so nice, man. It's so nice to see it, and so cool as well. And like, we've got chatting to your pit crew today as well, and they're lovely. It's just so cool to see these cars out and about on the track, as you said, where they belong. That's what it's about, man.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what people don't understand. People don't realise that they're there. And you know, as I said before, we have so much pressure and politics and everything else that comes with the modern side, and this just is the same. You get the same enjoyment from driving the cars, but it just takes away all of the stuff and all of the negatives that you don't like about racing. When every driver started racing, we all had to learn, so we weren't fast enough to be able to win on our very first go. The reason every driver continued is because they loved it. And what this does for me is this rekindles my love for the sport. So it means I can put up with a bit more of the politics and the BS when I go back to racing the modern cars, you know. But I've had a wonderful day.
Oh, good, man. Well, me too. Thank you so much for letting me come along and follow you. It's so nice to see you do your thing. But look, let's leave it there. Thank you for letting us see these gorgeous cars in the racing. We are On Track GP, and we will be back soon.
Cheers, guys. I don't know
Nice.
how to put that. I was like, oh, I didn't expect that.
Sorry, I dropped you in it.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see you soon.